In Greek and Slavic folklore, there was a belief that Christmas was not just a holy time, but a dangerous one. The sun is weakest, the nights are longest, and for 12 days between Christmas Day and the day of Epiphany, the line between worlds blurred. It's when these creatures who stay hidden most of the year eagerly crawl up and hunt humans. And among the most feared was this, the Kalikanzaros. W101.3 Welcome to Hans Hollow. I'm your host, Hans. Tonight we're following an old winter legend and 3 real documented cases that seem to orbit it. We're the only horror radio channel still broadcasting late at night, so think cold cases, disturbing history, things that have no explanation. If that's your kind of night, then subscribe to our Hollow because we broadcast every Wednesday. Okay, let's get right into it. The Kalikanzaros is not a demon in the Christian sense. It's not exactly a ghost, it's not quite a goblin. It exists somewhere in between. Descriptions vary based on what region you're in, but the core idea is always the same. A malformed, malicious being that emerges during the Christmas season to cause harm. They're described as these small or misshapen creatures with hairy, dark, animal-like fur, sometimes with hooves or elongated limbs. They're often grinning creepily and always watching you. In Greek folklore, Kalikanzaros are said to live underground for most of the year, hacking away at what's called the world tree. It was this mythical pillar that holds the earth in place. But every year, just before they manage to destroy it, Christmas arrives. They forget their task, they rise to the surface, and for 12 nights they roam freely among humans. They sneak into homes, they light fires, cause absolute mayhem, and in some cases, steal children. Like in Serbia and the Balkans, locals would say the Kalikanzaros walked upright and spoke clearly. Parents warned their kids not to answer voices outside at night, and not to follow footsteps in the snow, because the Kalikanzaros could imitate people and pretend to be human. It also knew your name. Personally, I think the legend of Kalikanzaros has survived centuries for a reason, because once you start noticing the patterns, you can't unsee it. Christmas Eve 1945 settled cold and quiet over Fayetteville, West Virginia. The Sodder household was loud, crowded, and alive. Think like Home Alone, honestly. 10 children filling the home with noise and movement. The charcoal fireplace burned steadily as everyone got into bed. Nothing felt unusual until after 1 a.m. when the house suddenly caught on fire. By the time parents George and Jenny Sodder realized what was happening, the flames had already engulfed their home and the main staircase, trapping 5 of their children upstairs: Maurice, Martha, Louise, Jenny, and Betty. George tried to reach them by using the ladder he always kept outside, but strangely, it was gone. He then jumped into his truck to get help, which normally started without any trouble. But tonight, his truck refused to start. He even tried calling the police, only to realize the phone line had been cut. Desperate, George ran back into the burning house to find any way to get to the 2nd floor. But aside from severe burns, his attempt was futile. Outside, Jenny could only watch as their home and 5 children burned alive in the cold Appalachian night. By the time neighbors arrived, the house collapsed into ash. Authorities initially concluded the 5 children died in the fire, but almost immediately, the evidence contradicted the story. First, no remains were found. No bones, teeth, or any human remains. By the way, a human body needs to burn for at least 2 hours at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius, so sorry. It needs to burn for that long. This fire, their house fire, only lasted 45 minutes. And the fire, again, only as hot, maybe 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit at most. So the Sodders were thinking, they were told the remains had been completely engulfed by the flames, but how could this be true? Second, neither Jenny nor George smelled flesh burning. And guys, I know this is gruesome, but there's a reason why people who have smelled burning flesh never forget it. It's this complex mix of like roasting meat, like over sulfur from the hair and nails, and like this metallic coppery scent from blood. This sickly sweet aroma, by the way, with like the burning internal fluid. Anyways, it's a really smelly smell, Mr. Krabs. But Jenny and George said they didn't smell anything that night. They also didn't hear any screams from trapped children, which implies no one was trapped in the first place. So like, if five missing children weren't trapped or burned alive, then where could they be? A woman reported seeing the children looking out of an upstairs window as the flames spread. And then a bus driver claimed that he saw people throwing glowing objects onto the roof earlier that night. And then a woman at the roadside diner said she served breakfast to 5 children, matching the description days later. Anyways, there's just so many different sightings and recordings of these 5 missing children, but none of them was a conclusive lead. As years passed, the Sodders refused, the Sodders refused to accept their 5 children died. Somewhere out there, they believed their children were alive and looking for a way back home. That's when George and Jenny erected this huge billboard along Route 16, displaying the children's faces, pleading for information. And that's when some leads came in. A photograph arrived in the mail, and it showed this young man looking directly into the camera. And on the back of the cryptic note referenced Louis Sodder, which was one of the kids that died in the fire. The family believed it was their son, but only for it to come back a false lead. He never responded. To this day, this case is one of America's most disturbing unsolved cases, because these children just vanished from the home on Christmas, coupled with almost 2 coincidental accidents, like the phone wire being cut and the truck just not starting. In another century, this would have been explained with a name like Kalikanzaros, who came into the night, cut the phone line and the car engine, and lit the house on fire. And when the time was right, they abducted the 5 kids. And honestly, Christmas creates these blind spots. Like, parents think the holiday cheer somehow protects their families from danger. And folklore understands this instinctively, which makes the next case all the more unsettling. Different country, different decade, same date. Christmas morning, 1966. It's Adelaide, Australia. The Beaumont household was just waking up. 9-year-old Jane, 7-year-old Arna, and 4-year-old Grant were begging their mom to let them go to Glenelg Beach. Now, she normally wouldn't allow it, but it was Christmas Day, the friendliest time of the year. Crowded, bright, familiar. It couldn't hurt, so she let them take the short bus ride there, but only if they were home by 2 p.m. As the children waved goodbye, their mother smiled, not knowing this was the last time she'd ever see them again. By 4 p.m., her concern turned to panic, and then a massive search ensued. These police, volunteers, dogs, helicopters. Witnesses then reported seeing the children playing near the shoreline with a tall man. He seemed friendly, like very calm, kind of protective, and one witness even remembered him applying sunscreen to their backs. In retrospect, that's extremely sus, but at the moment, he did look like he was their father, No one intervened, therefore, and there was no reason to. No bodies, no clothing, no signs of struggle. There was just nothing that was sus about that situation at the moment. Later, strange details emerged. The oldest of the children that went missing, Jane, had withdrawn money from her bank account. Then, someone purchased pastries with the children's money. Evidence suggested that the children were alive, composed, and unafraid. Well, at least at first. Because over the decades, suspects started emerging. Confessions followed, but nothing held up, just like the last case we talked about. Excavations yielded nothing. What disturbs investigators is not the disappearance really, but the fact that it happened in such broad daylight. It was a packed place, and it was Christmas Day. It's a public place as well. The same vulnerability folklore warns about: trust without scrutiny. The Beaumont children were never found since, and some would say the Kalikanzaros hides in plain sight, like this tall, unassuming man who lured Jane, Arna, and Grant away without them even noticing. When we look at other stories of Kalikanzaros, they don't just steal children, no. They have the ability to possess and spread the wish of death on good families, which brings us to Christmas Day 1929. It was an unusually cold dawn over rural North Carolina. The Lawson family, being Charlie, his wife Fanny, and their 7 children, had posed for a family portrait just days earlier. They were all dressed so well, just so normal and ordinary. But by nightfall, 6 of those children would be dead. Charlie Lawson murdered his wife and 6 of his children in cold blood and then turned the gun on himself. Only one child survived, his eldest son Arthur, who had been sent out on an errand earlier that day. There was no robbery, no struggle, no clear explanation, there was nothing. But before the murder, Charlie had actually seemed very strange. Neighbors noticed mood changes, and some said he seemed distant, hollow, distracted. Others said nothing appeared wrong at all, though. Authorities later suggested possible brain injuries from an accident years earlier. And modern theories propose untreated mental illness or maybe psychosis. And these explanations make sense, but they also don't. They feel incomplete. Because the timing and preparation of it all, of the murder, just didn't add up with what he did a few days before. Charlie had purchased gifts, he had bought new clothes for his family, he had planned for Christmas. And then something snapped. And if you were to ask the locals, this story took on another layer. Not a supernormal explanation, but a sense of intrusion. Something entered the household before the violence. Something that unmoored a man from himself. Old stories often frame such events as the work of winter spirits, not because people believed monsters wielded guns, but because they recognized a pattern. Sudden moral collapse during liminal times. See, Christmas is meant to be a moment of pause, of peace. When violence erupts during that pause, it feels wrong in a way that defies logic. The Lawson home was later completely destroyed, but their story remained. And every year, when Christmas comes to Appalachia, the name resurfaces quietly. Because these tragedies just don't fade, they linger. It's like footprints in snow that no one remembers making. Modern Christmases know nothing about the Kalikanzaros. The disappearances cluster around moments of trust, around holidays, around nights when people believe they're safe. In the days of survival, folklore didn't live on because it's scary or anything, but rather because it's useful. Maybe that's what the legend of Kalikanzaros is really pointing to. Past physical descriptions of hairy skin or evil laughs. No. The true Kalikanzaros are humans with evil intentions. Those who wait till Christmas to abduct and kill children. It's a warning passed down long before police reports and security cameras existed. During the longest nights of the year, when the house feels warm and the world feels quiet, pay attention, because some of the most evil creatures may be watching you right now. Thanks for tuning into my broadcast. I really hope that you liked it. We broadcast every Wednesday, so like and subscribe if you want to join in on the fun. I'll see you guys next Wednesday, and have a horrible sleep.